Hello, everybody, and welcome to the last training session of the semester. This is Stova Essentials, which is a quick introduction to Stova and a tutorial on how to get started on a registration page. I will be your trainer today. My name is Laura Rutherford, and I am one of two Stova account administrators here at ASU, and I work in the Office of University Events and Protocol. Just a few notes. As you probably noticed, this session is being recorded. We will send you the link to this session. Uh, it usually takes a day or two for us to get it rendered and edited and etc. And it'll be sent to you via email. You may notice as we move through the platform, or as you move through the platform, that you might see different names depending on where you're at. Stova has had several iterations. When we first started, it was eTouches. They changed their name to Eventry. And then after some mergers and acquisitions, they became Stova. It's all the same platform, the same one we've been using for 9 years now. We welcome questions and hope you will ask them. You have a couple of ways to do it. You can either go into chat and ask your question. Might take me a second to see it, but I will get to it. Or you can unmute your microphone at any time and ask a question. We will also have some time at the end to ask questions if you want to hold them to the end. Whatever you need to do is okay with me. Here's our agenda today. We'll be creating a new registration site, customizing the registration site, doing some final prep, and I'll teach you how to go live. And then we'll show you all of the support options at the end. Here's our event use case. The dean of our imaginary college is hosting a welcome reception for the new director of innovations and outcomes. Faculty, staff, and students will be invited. There'll be a large welcome reception for everybody, followed by a private meet and greet with faculty only. The dean wants to know which faculty will be attending the private meeting, and that private meeting will also have appetizers. This is how we'll break down the event. It's a free event. We'll be using some categories for faculty, staff, and students. The attendee info will have some basic contact information, department, campus, dietary requirements. Of course, that's going to be for campus only or for faculty only, because that's who's eating. Uh, we will allow group booking for faculty and staff, but not students. And then in sessions, we'll set up that private meet and greet. So let's get started. To get started, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the Stova system using the stova.asu.edu, which is the Stova support site for ASU. And the easiest way to get into your account is to click this yellow button, which will take you right to our SSO, which is our single sign-on. Okay, I'm going to put in my ASU right. That should take us right into Stova. Okay. Now here we are in our College of Really Cool Ideas, which is our training college that we invented. And what you will see when you get into your account is the folders to which you have authority to use. And we do that based on your Workday assignments in Workday. So it says if you're assigned to the College of Really Cool Ideas, that's the folder you would get into. Okay. Now, when you get into it, what you'll see is something like this, right? You'll see the cloud level, and then you'll see the primary folder that you're allowed into. To get into the rest of the information, you're going to click that little plus sign, and that's going to give you all the folders that are underneath your primary folder. Okay. Now here, what we want to do is we want to use one of the ASU brand templates. The first big piece of advice I'm going to give you is, because it seems logical, is do not push the big blue button that says create new event. If you push this button, what happens is you get into a template designed by Stova, which has Stova branding in it, right? If you use one of the ASU brand templates, then we already give you a head start with ASU brand, and we've structured it so that it has the primary questions and setups most ASU event planners will need, okay? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get into my brand template. I'm just going to click it. And here I see I have a template, the basic event 4.3.4, okay? Any template that's higher than a 4.3.1, 2, 3, or 4 is going to be the template that you want to use. Anything under a 4 doesn't have all the bells and whistles and correct branding and coding that will make your life easier. Okay. Now, if I just used this from this folder, what would happen is I would use up my template, and I don't want to do that. It's easy enough to happen, by the way. And if you do accidentally end up using your template, just let us know and we'll stick a new template into your folder for you. But best practice is instead is to clone this, which is this clone button right here. Now, as a note, your page may be slightly structured differently. Most pages have this clone button on the other side of the trash button or on this side of the trash button. Okay, it's too close to trash, and too many times I've been training and I've clicked the trash button instead of the clone button. So we moved it for training purposes so that I don't make that mistake for you. Okay, but you'll double click this clone button. All right, and it'll bring this page up for you. And this is how you're going to clone the event. We're going to rename it. Okay, and I'm going to call this the May New Directors Reception. First, I have to spell reception correctly. Okay, now what folder do I want it to be? Right now, it's living in the template folder, and that doesn't really work for me. Instead, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the top level folder. Okay. And that way, when I want to find it again, it makes it much easier to find. Click the submit button. Takes a second. And then it brings us to this piece of the overview page, right? Here it says these are the modules that you can activate for your registration page. All right. Really, the only one we're going to talk about today is the registration, which is down here at the bottom. All right. All of the rest of these can work hand in hand with your registration page. Some of these, by the way, have been discontinued. For example, seating doesn't work. There is a seating module, but it's a separate module now that we do not currently have access to. So what you have here is the registration, and that's the one you want, and that's what we're going to go into. Now, I want to stay in the overview page. Why is that? Well, a couple of things. First of all, I want to point out that if you should get in and use the marketing website for an invitation, that will show up in here. If you create a survey and attach it to this registration page, that will show up here. If you use the website builder and attach it to this registration page, that'll show up here as well. This overview page just kind of gives you a look at what you've done so far. All right. The real big reason, though, that I want you to look at this is this ASU merge fields. All right. These fields will be super helpful to you as you move forward. Basically, when we get to the end of the training, I'm going to show you what the event emails look like. Those are things like your confirmation page, your cancellation, if someone cancels, an incomplete email, etc. At the end of each of those emails is a footer that has all of this information in it. But if we fill this out now, there are merge codes that will pull the information from this page into your emails so that you don't have to do the work multiple times. All right, let's go ahead and show you how to, just as you might think. College of Really Cool Ideas. Okay. All right. And okay. So now I have all of my merge codes ready to go. I've done a lot of good work, so I want to make sure I save and stay. We're talking about that save and stay button a lot. Okay. So now we're ready to go in and start filling out the rest of your registration page. You have two ways to get there. You can either hover over the registrations and then come down and select registration settings, or you can make a shortcut and just click this pencil. And now you're going to get to the registration settings page. Okay. So first, a couple of notes about navigation. Okay. If you need to get into the navigation panel, you come up here to the left and you click the three lines that we call a hamburger or a stack. And if you ever talk to the Stova corporate support, that's what they'll call it, is a hamburger. They'll say, hey, click that hamburger. That's what they're talking about, okay? You click that, then the navigation panel shows up, and these are all the other modules that you can get into. It includes a support module down here at the bottom that you can get into to help you with some support options that we'll talk about at the end. But that's how you get to it when you see it at the end. Okay, I'll close that. If you should come away from this page and you want to be able to find your registration page that you've been working on, you can put in some keywords here or the actual name of it. You could put in this 6-digit number, which is right here, okay? And that 6-digit number is something that you will be asked for if you talk to either Stova support or ASU Stova report, which is me and Steve. We'll ask you for that 6-digit number, okay? It's an easy way for us to pull up your account and take a look and see what's going on, all right? That number is also at the end of the URL, which is down here at the right, okay? And as soon as you hit that submit button, when we were putting this together, it created a unique URL for you for this page. Okay. And that 6-digit number is there as well. Okay. Now, you can change the name of your event anytime you need to, up and until you go live. Now, you could even change it after you go live, but the chances are you're going to confuse people. So, if you need a working title for a little while, that's fine. Make sure you get it kind of put together before you go live so you don't run into any issues with your attendees who are trying to register. Okay. Now, remember I showed you that URL? You do have an option of making it a little more custom. It's going to stay in the special events .asu.edu, but you can change a keyword at the end instead of your event number. So here I'm going to do and that URL is available. So if I hit save and stay down here at the bottom, okay. Now you see it says ins and outs May, all right? I could change that to anything that is available, and that URL will come up and say it's either green, it's available, or red, it's not available, to let you know that you may need to tweak it, all right? However, I want to save all of my unique ones, so I'm going to actually change it back to the number for now, and that's okay. For the most part, you're going to put this URL under a button, right? It's going to be a registration button. Nobody's ever going to see the URL, so it's not going to matter. But if you need to send it to somebody via email, or maybe you got to put it on a postcard, and you don't want, you want the keyword to be involved, then that's the perfect time to do the custom direct. Okay. Remember, you're just going to put your keyword in here and then hit save and stay. Don't click the custom redirect. That takes you to a place that is more complicated than we need to get into today. And it's not to your benefit. Okay. Now, this is a reception. This is not a front-facing piece of the puzzle, right? This is for reporting. So if this was one of these other things, if it was a ceremony or a lecture or a workshop, and you left at reception, the problem with that is that at the end of the semester, when your dean or director comes to you and says, hey, I'd like a report on how many receptions we held, it's grouped by this field. So when you pull your cross-event reports, if you had misnamed this, then it would no longer get you the information that you want for your reporting, okay? So although this is not forward-facing, it's super handy for reporting purposes, all right? Since this is a reception, we're just going to leave it. Now, there are only two fields on this page that are required. One is the name of the event, which we've already filled out, okay? And one is the event status. Now, event status is super easy, right? If you click this drop down, you'll see all the possible event statuses, all right? We want to stay in pre-event until we are done testing all the fields, all the emails, etc., right? You want to test it, you want to send it to somebody else to be tested, etc. Only then do you want to clear your test registrations and then go live by coming back to this field and clicking the drop down, selecting live, and then selecting save and stay. We will be coming back to this at the end of the session to show you how it's done. Okay. Now, event image is not applicable for the registration page. That's a website builder situation, okay? Now, maximum registrations. You don't have to put a number in here. If you have a situation in which you can, like you're in an open space and you can have as many as many registrations as you want to, like it's a festival or you just don't think you're going to get that many people, etc., you can leave it blank, all right? However, if you have limited capacity, you're going to want to put a number in here, right? For now, I'm going to put in 100. Okay. Registration close date. This also does not have to have a date in here. However, I like to use them because I like to know how many people are coming and I like to have a definitive date for when it closes. All right. So this event is in May. So we want to go back to May and I'm going to say this event is on May 15th. All right. That means I want to have all of my information by May 12th. Okay. That's the close date for me. Choose what you need to based on your catering requirements, printing requirements for any documents that you're going to give out, etc. All right. But again, this is one of those fields you don't have to fill it out if it's not applicable. And I want to do this so it's that date, but at midnight. So 11:45 p.m. is pretty close to midnight. That's what I'm going to leave it as. Okay. Now, any field you get to that has one of these little buttons on the end, this is called an HTML editor. And you're going to click that to make any changes in here, unless you speak fluent HTML, which most of us do not. All right. You notice this is a lot of weird code. All right. If you just started typing in here without the code, what would happen is that anything you wanted to appear where it's going to appear would be one long run-on sentence. All right. In order to make it look correct, you're going to go into the HTML editor where you will have a nice toolbar and you can make all your changes. Okay. This toolbar is super friendly. Again, if you do speak HTML, you could click the source button and there's all the code. All right. But since most of us do not, we're just going to do it this way. All right. Now, this is templated already for you so that you would have something. Feel free to customize this to your best interests. All right. This is just the basic information. If you need to say for information or questions regarding the event, it's Laura. If you have informations or if you have questions about the new program, click here. If you want a bio, click here. So you have options to customize this, but for now, we're just going to leave all of this. If you do make changes, you're going to want to update and then it'll exit. Okay. So any field that has that little square is editable in an HTML editor. Okay. I don't need an event description for this because it's not going anywhere, right? I'm not teaching you how to use the marketing module where maybe this would be helpful, right? I'm just going to leave it. Now, program manager. This is again also not front facing, right? However, super handy both for your team and for Steve and I to know who the primary person is for this project in case we get questions, which we occasionally do, or if someone in your team has availability to this folder, looks at it and says, who's in charge of this one? Because they've got questions. So while it's not required, it's strongly recommended. All right. If you had an external client, you could put them in here. All right. Since we're not using lodging and primarily in ASU, we're not going to put any notes here. But our location is at the MU for this event. So we're going to say Memorial Union, ASU at the Tempe campus. All right. In here, I'm going to go ahead and put in Alumni Lounge. Right. And then I'm going to put in the address right there. Okay. I want the physical address, not the mailing address. So I'm going to do that. Now, all the rest of this stuff is up to you, whether you want to put it in, whether you're going to pull that information into your, generally all of these fields pull into the confirmation email. So if you want it to show up in your confirmation email, you could put them in here. If you're not going to use if you're not going to use this information in the confirmation email, then you don't need to put it in. Okay. Select venue is not applicable for ASU. Now, event date and time. All right, we're going to have a start date. Remember, I decided it was going to be April, or it's going to be May 15th. All right, and it's going to start at 5:30. That gives everybody a chance to go to work, walk to the MU. All right, and then we want to set the end date for the same date, unless you're having a multi-day conference. All right, so we're going to go to the 15th again. I'm going to say this is over at 7 o'clock. Okay. Now, the date format is put together so that it carries throughout your event. And in the template, it would say Friday, uh, May 15th, 2026. That's the date I prefer, the date structure I prefer. If you would like a different format, you could choose any of these others. All right. Just be aware that when you click a different date format, that it will show up throughout your registration page. Same thing with your time format. Okay. So we're using the 12-hour clock because that's pretty much what people in the US expect, right? Is 1 p.m. or 3 p.m. or 9 a.m., etc. But if you were talking to a primarily European audience, maybe you'd want to use the 24-hour clock. Or if you had a military audience, you'd want to use a military time clock. All right. It's up to you and your audience. Time zone. Best practice is to have your time zone be in the place where the physical event is taking place. Now, if you're doing a virtual or a hybrid, you can also use Arizona time. However, be advised, Arizona time confuses many, many people. All right. So you might want to make a choice that shows that either you explain that in your invitation, what Arizona time means, or that you choose like maybe Pacific time, because especially when we do not jump into daylight savings time, the rest of the world loses their mind and they can't figure it out. All right. So since we are physically in practice and these are all ASU folks, we're going to stay in Arizona time and we will figure it out. All right. Now, contact information. That is this. Now remember up here in the registration closed message, there was a merge code about contact info. All right. So when we fill out this little HTML edit section, it will pull into this field because this merge code is here. That's what merge codes do. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and close this and scroll back down. Come into the HTML editor. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and fill out some stuff. Right. And then I'm just going to put my email. You could put whatever information you'd like, phone number, you know, secret codes, whatever you need. Now I've made changes, so of course I want to update and exit. And now I've got my contact info. Now I've made a lot of changes on the page and I'm going to click save and stay. Now, why save and stay instead of save and exit? When you click save and stay, you save and you stay on this page. If you click save and exit, what it does is it saves this page and then it closes this page and takes you to the page above. All right, I'm going to show you what that's going to look like. All right, so it takes us back to our folders, right? So that confuses people all the time. So I primarily stay with save and exit, and I choose to move around in other with other functions. Now, to get back to your page, I could either put in, if I knew the number, I could put the number here. I could put in a couple of keywords here and search that way. But one of the neat things about Stova is that it has this little clock and it'll pull up the last 6 things that you've worked at. Okay. So there's my page again. Ta-da! All right, which is exactly what I wanted. Now, we've done all the changes on this page that we're going to for now. So we're going to go into categories. Now, categories are a super powerful filter that you can use for your registrants so that they get asked specific questions depending on their category. All right. Maybe they get charged a certain dollar amount based on this category. You could use it on how to structure. Maybe they have to pick a day that they're coming to an event. You could use a category for that. About 70% of the time, if you have some issue, categories are almost always our answer, right, to solve that issue. They're very, very powerful. And it's hard to explain how powerful they are until after we design the categories, and then I refer to them later on, okay? Now, suppose you don't need a category, right? Everybody comes in, they're all the same. Then you just leave this page alone. Don't come in here and erase this general admission. The system needs some category to sort of grab its teeth into to make the rest of the system works. If it just is general admission, this is not going to show up anywhere on your page that's going to bother your attendees in any way. So if you don't have a category, just leave this alone, okay? Since we do have categories, I'm going to come into the edit, since we already have a category, and I'm going to change it from general admission to faculty. All right. Now, because there was already a a category designed, right? It was general admission. It already has a direct link. So if you have a group of people, say you're charging one group $1 amount and one group gets in free, and you don't want all those categories to show up at the beginning of the registration process so that people are taking the free option instead of the paid option, you could send this direct link to your free folks so that the pay folks never see it. All right. That's one of the values of having a category, right? Is this direct link. So I've made a change. So I'm going to go ahead and click save and stay. Okay. Now, some other things you could do in here, all right? If your category name was super long, right, you could have a short name for it so that when it shows up on this page or in reports, you know what that short name means, but it's not messing up your report, right? You could also make a description. Maybe people don't know what faculty means, and you need to describe. This means if you're a faculty member of Arizona State University, etc. Okay. You could decide that you have a maximum number of faculty members that you want to allow, and that serves as another capacity limit. All right. We want faculty to come, so we're not going to fill that out, but if we did, we could. And then we could also have a customized close message once that number is made. All right. So I've made all my changes, and this is one of the few times I will use save and exit because again, it takes you it bumps you to the next page up, which is the page we want. So we're going to add two more categories real quick. All right, this is going to be staff. Okay. And then one more is student. Right. And I want to save and stay so you can see that the link is going to appear. See? Right there. All right. I'll save and exit. And now we have faculty, staff, and student as our three categories. All right, so let's come into attendee info. Now, at the top of the attendee info page is, as we have set it up, is some primary, the primary attendee instructions tells you sort of some velvet glove language. If you enter your email and press continue, etc., right? It gives them their instructions, all right? If they're allowed to add an additional attendee, it gives them additional instructions, all right? If they're just a single and they never add an additional attendee, they'll never see this. Okay. Now you'll notice that this is heading no input, meaning this is totally informational. We don't expect any information back from them. This is just for their edification. All right. Whereas the email address says it's a single line of text. All right. You always want to use your email address as your first identifier to get into your registration page. It is unique, unlike our names, right? There can be many Laura Rutherfords, but there's only one laura.rutherford at asu.edu, okay? Because that's a unique identifier. So that's sort of that's your first security question. All right. If you scroll down, now once they get in to the registration page, they get to the attendee information section, and this is where you're going to start asking them questions. I am choosing not to have them tell me what their prefix is. All right. I do like their first name and their last name. I'm going to add the suffix, but here I'm going to show you the difference, right? It's visible but not required because not everybody has a suffix, right? Some people do, some people don't. If I made it required, they would have to select something and it wouldn't be necessarily correct. So this is visible but not required, right? So you can be visible but not required, but you can't be required and not visible, right? It won't let you do it. So now I want to take that requirement off. We do want their title, but not everybody has a title. So again, I'm not making it required. And instead of company and organization, I want to know what department they're in. All right, that means I got to go to the inactive questions because that is a question that lives there. Department unit. All right. To move this, I simply go over to the edit button, click it. Yep, that's the question. Now I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to move it from inactive questions to attendee information page. All right. And then I also want to move over the campus because the dean wants to know what campus they're in. All right, so I'm going to scroll down here. And again, I'm going to move it to the attendee information. I'm going to save and exit. So basically, we have all of these inactive questions are all questions we thought, gosh, an ASU event planner may need these questions, but won't always need these questions. So to sort of streamline the look and feel of the active questions, we just let these live here and you can move them back and forth as needed. All right. So now I need to go back to active questions. All right. And where are they? Where are they? Oh, gosh, look, they're down here at the bottom. All right. To move these, anything that has these little gray little dots, right, can be moved. All right. So I want to structure this. So I want to put it right under title. And I want to make that. Okay. I want to take off company organization. We don't need their addresses, city, state, or zip code. I do need to move the campus up right above company organization. And this one I'm going to make required because everybody knows what campus they live on, we hope. Okay. I'm going to hit save and stay. Now, remember that the dean also wants us to host that little reception for faculty only. So all of these questions are questions that could be answered by everybody. But a question to be answered by faculty only about dietary restrictions is something we're going to add down here. Now, here's my second big piece of advice. Please note that all of these questions have a little computer screen, right? And if you hover it over it, it tells you what the system is expecting. These are system level or also known as account level fields. That means that this is an expectation in the system. And if you go in because you don't need a zip code, but you think you need to know what people's favorite color is because you're giving out um, promotional items, what you're doing is you are changing a system level expectation and messing up reporting. So for example, if I'm registering and you change this to what's my favorite color, when I go to register again and I go to put in my zip code, instead it's going to say blue instead of my zip code. All right. So it can be a real problem for folks. So please, please, please do not mess with the system level fields. All right. There are lots of ways for you to add a question, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now. And when you add a question, then that is an event level question. Okay. So notice that the question has an HTML field. We're going to click in to get it. All of our questions are bolded. So I'm going to ask, okay, I'm going to update and exit. All right. Yes, I want it on the attendee information page, input type. Right now, it's informational only, but I need information from them. So I'm going to come down here, click the drop down, and this is the options I get. All right. Now, piece of advice. Might sound simple. Just let them tell you what their dietary restrictions are. Don't do that to yourself. Okay. When you do this to yourself, I find as an event planner that what I get is a life story that I don't need, right? I need to know if you're going to die if you eat a strawberry. I don't need to know that you're on a keto diet and that you have to have a salad with greens and you prefer ranch. That's not what I'm looking for. All right. So instead of doing that first word, okay, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to look for a button of some kind. So I could do radio buttons, but some people have more than one dietary restriction. Maybe they're vegetarian and gluten-free. Okay. All right. So that won't work because the radio button lets you only select one. Instead, multiple check boxes is where I want to go. Okay. Because they can check all the check boxes if they want to. All right. I'm going to specify my check boxes. My first option is going to be vegetarian. Add another one. It's going to be vegan. The next one's going to be gluten-free. Next one is going to be food allergy or religious exception. And then in parentheses, I say, please explain in the comments below. Okay. I'm going to add one more, which is NA. Okay. Now I want that NA to go at the top. Sometimes it's a little picky. There we go. All right, that way I can make this a required question so that they have to choose something. They can't come back to me later and say, oh, I didn't know. This way you can say, look, you selected NA. Right? Those people, they can be tricky. So there's the question. I've got everything I need. I'm going to save and exit. You can see here it's down at the bottom. I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to put it right under campus. Okay. Actually, I've changed my mind. I want to put it right under phone number because I want their phone number and then dietary restrictions because I have another question to add, which is comments. All right. So that way they can tell me I'm allergic to strawberries. They can tell me, I only eat kosher, etc. Here, I'm just going to call this comments, questions. And this question is one that I want everybody to see because maybe there's an accommodation that I need to be aware of. So this one's going to be available for everybody. And I'm going to move this just underneath company or right underneath dietary restriction. There it is. Okay. Now, I do have to make one more change for dietary restriction because not everybody is meant to see this question, right? Only people who are coming to that private meet and greet. How do we change that? Well, let me show you. How you do it is you go back into that edit button, okay? Scroll down and you're going to look for visibility, all right? Right now, all categories can see this. You're going to unclick that. And now you can choose which category sees it. We want faculty see it and it is required. Okay, so I'm done. So I'm going to save and exit. Now you're going to see it says partial. That basically means that this question is only going to be seen by a portion of your attendees. That's how you know you've assigned it to a category. I've done a lot of work, so I'm going to click Save and Stay. Now I bet you're curious as what this looks like. How do we look? Well, we could come here and click the URL button, but basically that would put us into, actually testing it. I don't want to test it right now. I just want to look at it. So you can scroll over registrations and come down to preview event. And here's what it looks like so far. All right, see it's got all the ASU branding. All right, here are their options. So they'd have to come in here and select faculty, staff, or student. Okay, they would start with their address. All right, well, how do we look through this to see all of it? You come up here to the top where it says page. And now we're going to go to attendee information. Well, it still says prefix. Well, I didn't want that. So let me come back to my STOVA tab. I'm going to unclick prefix, but I wanted that suffix in there. So I'm going to do that. Everything else looks the way I want it to. Okay. I'm going to save and stay. Come back to my preview and then refresh the page, which unfortunately is going to take it to the first page again. So you got to go back to the attendee information. So now we've got first name, last name, suffix, their title, their department, which campus they're on. Okay. Their phone number is required. Dietary restrictions, they have to choose either not applicable or one of these others. Okay. Oh, look, we have a mobile phone. I didn't want that. And comments and questions doesn't have a field. Uh-oh. All right. So we're going to go back, scroll down. I'm going to take the mobile phone off. That won't show up. We're going to come up to the comments and questions, come back here. And remember attendee information, heading no input. Oh, this time you are going to let them tell you a story should they need to. All right. I'm going to save and exit. And again, now when I'm designing pages, this is what I do, right? I have the two tabs open next to each other so that I can take a look and go in and correct and then come back and look, etc. I just go back and forth until I get everything the way I want it. All right, so let's look at the attendee information page one more time. Yes. Well, that mobile phone is still on there. Ugh. All right. Well, I'll fix that later. All right. But I also want to see, right, if that faculty and staff question about dietary restrictions is only for faculty. Because right now we're looking at the faculty category. What does it look like for staff? As you see, it does not have the dietary restrictions questions. But because I want to allow for accommodations, I left the comments and questions available for them. Okay. I'm going to fix that one last time. See, that should not be showing up. Save and stay that one more time. Go back. I'm going to double check student as well. And attendee. There. And you can now see that that mobile phone popped off too. Okay. Now, we have a couple more pieces to do, but so far, so good. So, going to go into agenda options because we need to design that little private meet and greet. All right, I'm going to add a session. It's a single session, no input, but I want to know if they're coming or not. So I'm going to make them check a box. All right, it is on May 15th. All right, if the start time of the general reception is at 5:30, I think probably we want to make this at 6:45. Okay, and that the end time will be 7:30. All right. And I'm going to name it. Will you attend a private meet and greet with the new director? Okay. There's our session. Okay. So I'm going to save and stay. Now, I also need to come in here and make sure, again, only faculty can see this. All right, that's that visibility detail again. I'm going to come down to where I can find visibility, which is down here. And I'm going to say it's visible only for faculty. I'm not making it required. All right. I'm going to save and exit. Come back up here. And because we have added a function, now one of the things that you can look at is the agenda page. And there's the question. Okay. And they just click here whether if they're attending or not. Now, if they're staff, it's blank. And they won't see, staff and students will not even see this question, skip right over it. They won't see this at all. All right. Which makes it super handy. So now you're starting to see the value of categories, right? You can use it for all kinds of things. All right. So we've got the session. All right. We've got the look and feel the way we want it, and we're not doing any payments. That's great. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come over back to event info because we need to talk about registrant rules. What are registrant rules? Well, among other things, it's the ability to allow your registrants to create group bookings. Remember, the dean doesn't want students to be able to create group bookings. He wants them to choose themselves, and then the next student will have to register themselves, okay? But faculty and staff can. So you have to say, do you want to allow your students, allow your registrants? Well, yes, I do, but not all attendee categories, right? I'm going to allow faculty and staff, but not students. So the students will not get a question at the end that says, would you like to register another attendee? But faculty and staff will. Okay. Now there are other things you can do in here. You can look at all of these and say, yes, yes, no, no, click what you need to. You can say, yes, I will allow faculty and staff to allow additional people, but I'm going to say they can only do one more. Okay. So they can register themselves and one other person. I could leave that blank and they could register however many people they want. Or I could say 5 additional people, right? Depends on what you want to do. This field for guest registration permissions, It doesn't work the way that you think it would. And even Stova itself doesn't recommend using this field because, unfortunately, if you're a situation where, like, yeah, I want to register my spouse, that's great. Your spouse gets registered, but it doesn't count against your capacities. I don't know why. It's just one of those things. All right. So we do not recommend using this field. All right. You can also decide if you're going to let your attendees modify their registration. If yes, then you want to make sure this is clicked, right? They can modify their attendee info. I'm going to let them modify their agenda. Maybe they have to decide they are going to attend that private meet and greet, or maybe they're going to decide they can't. Okay. Um, Maybe I'm going to allow them to add additional attendees or cancel attendees. Those are the decisions you can make. All right. Quick note, you can also block list people, right? So if you have a situation in which someone's been invited, you find out later they should not have been for whatever reason, you can do an account level block list or an event level block list. Be advised that you should, this is my deepest recommendation to you, that if you have to block somebody, get permission to do so from someone higher than you and get it in writing, okay? I had the very deep pleasure of blocklisting a politician that I actually didn't even care for. And I made sure, because they did something naughty, I made sure that I had an email from a VP level that said, yes, block this person. And so I blocked this person, and then I created a closed message that says, sorry, there's no more capacity for this event, right? So that lets them save face, etc. Okay, but do get permissions. These are things that you need our help with. Just let us know and let us know that you got that permission. Okay, I'm going to save and stay because I've made some changes. Okay, we also need to talk about event emails. Now, there's a difference between event emails and marketing emails. Event emails are emails that are triggered, okay, by something that the attendee has done during the registration process. All right. So they have registered, they have canceled, they have started a registration, but they're incomplete. They've come in, they've registered, but now they're changing it. They've updated it. Okay. Those are all things that the attendee has done. All right. And so these are automatic emails that goes to them based on their actions. All right. You don't have to trigger these. These are triggered by the system. Okay. So a couple of these emails are the waitlist registration and the waitlist confirmation. These are only triggered if you yourself trigger the waitlist function in the registration process. It's not something we're going to go through today. That's covered in more advanced training. And so we won't be talking about it. But don't worry about these emails if you're not using them. Another note is if you're not using these emails, don't delete them because maybe you are going to use them and you choose to clone this event later on because it's got everything set the way you want it. You do anything, all right? But we do need to get in here and do a couple of things.
Excuse me, Laura. I lost your microphone for the last comment. Could you repeat what you just said?
Sure, where did I end?
Uh, I'm not sure. I just suddenly
Okay,
heard silence.
I'll give it a shot. So basically, I'll just
But don't delete the emails.
okay, thank you. So don't delete the emails because you might clone this event later on. And if you do, then those emails will be gone and you won't be able to see them. We can put them back in for you, but it does become difficult. Don't worry about if you're not using them. If you're not waitlisting, they won't send anything unless you've enacted that waitlist feature. Okay? So we're going to get in and show you how to structure your emails because you need to do a little bit of work. So we're going to start with the confirmation email. Get into the edit button. The email type is indeed the initial confirmation. The subject line will read confirmation for, and then it has that one of those merge codes, which will pull the event name from that first page. Okay. And then the from email. So I'm going to come in here and change that out to College of Really Cool Ideas. All right. Now, do notice that it has a little extra A hiding in here. So it's a.asu.edu. That is not a mistake. That is a security requirement from ASU Event Enterprise Technology. Sorry, it took me a second. Requirement for third-party emails, of which Stova is considered a third-party email. Okay. And that shows ASU that this email is safe. All right. So you want to leave that A in here. As a matter of fact, if you don't put that A in here, when you go to move on to the next piece, it'll flash an error message at you that says, sorry, this domain is not recognized. Okay. If you get that message, go back and look and see if you're missing that little extra A. It's only in the from, all right? It's not in the reply to. Notice there's not one here in the reply to email. Okay. So we're going to put in College of Really Cool Ideas. Apply to, call up CI. And it can come back to me. Okay. So you need to fill this out on each one of those emails. Confirmation, cancellation, I'll show those to you again when we get done. So then you scroll down and you look at the actual email. You have some handy buttons up here that we'll talk about. You have the HTML handy dandy toolkit. Scroll down here. If you have an endorsed brand, you can use it. Just click on it, right? Which brings up this little image properties window. Go into your folder. All right. Go into a folder that you've got. And now I've got this. All right. Since I've got this here, I don't really need this ASU unit name. So I'm going to do backspace and I'm going to delete that table. Oops. Nope. I didn't want that. Okay. There we go. Now I can put a picture in here too. And the way I do that is I come up here to the image button, going to browse the server again. Okay. And I like this picture here, but I'm going to change the width because 600 is better. All right. And it's automatically going to take care of the height for me. That looks like a good reception. Woohoo. All right. So we have the templated information here. Change it as you need. All right. So dear first name, that's one of those merge codes. Thank you for your registration to, etc. Event start date, location, all of the information. Come in here, make any additional, additional parking instructions will be sent to those who are attending from other campuses a few days before the event. Okay. And then look forward to seeing you. The event team. All right. So you can customize this to your needs. All right. Now, This contact info merge code, pulling from the contact info that we already put in on the other page. All right. We are allowing some of them to modify. So that's what this information is. Okay. Here's the latest badge for innovation. That's great. Okay. These are those merge codes that we put together on that first overview page. So it's going to pull all that information and we won't have to worry about it, right? Otherwise, you'd have to fill this the entire time. Okay. So this is looking good. It's the way I want it. I want to make sure I save and stay. Yes. Now, you should also test this separate than through your registration process. Now, you can click the preview email, but it doesn't really give you what you need. I always instead send an email to myself and maybe to my director or to somebody else in my department so they can look at it now. Okay? So you just put in your email address and you send test now, and then you get the email and you can look at it. All right? That makes sure it's rendering correctly, that you got all the information, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? So you've made all these changes. I'm going to save and stay one more time. Then I'm going to go back. Okay. So the things that are going to need to be updated, just like we did, are the cancellation, the confirmation, the incomplete, and the updated. All right. Make sure you update all 4 of those. Now, the other email that can happen is one that's not triggered by your attendees, but is instead triggered by you to give your attendees additional information. So if you want to remind them about the event, if you want to send a parking map to those who are parking off campus, this is where you're going to do that. Okay. And the way you do that is, again, you come into the edit function. You're going to fill out that top portion just like you did before, right? With the unit email, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Change your endorsed brand, change the picture. You're going to come in here and you don't have to use this structure. It's there for your benefit. Change it the way you need it. Okay. If you can't make it, et cetera, you could put in your own line about parking or whatever you need to put here. Okay. Make all your changes, structure it the way you want to, and then you pick your recipients. Okay. Now, among other things, you could base it on a question. So if you want to send a map to those who are parking at another campus, you could match it to those who chose another campus. All right. You can decide to send a specific email to your faculty to remind them also about attending that private meet and greet. Okay. You could send this reminder to everybody and then send a second reminder to those other either people who answered the question or people who are only going to that private meet and greet. Okay. Once you make those decisions about who's getting this, you can schedule it. Scheduling is very easy. You can either select a specific date or you can do it relative to the event. I'm going to select relative, and it's going to be 2 days or 1 day or 8 hours before the event. Okay. You could also send a post-event email and schedule it for 2 days after the event that says, thank you for attending. We hope that you learned something valuable, or we hope that you didn't forget your tchotchke that we gave you. All right. So it's really easy to use the system in such a way that you can customize it for all of your needs. Okay. So you've got it scheduled, it will send, and you're ready to go. Now, let me show you what this process is going to look like. I'm going to pretend I'm faculty, right? We're going to register. Put in my name. I don't have a suffix. I'm not going to put in my title. I'm going to say Tim P. and A. test, continue. Oh, I forgot something. Oh, my phone number. I'm going to attend. Here's that question. Will I be registering anybody else? Nope. Okay. So they'll get this and they'll also get a confirmation email. Okay. Now, the reason I did that is because before you go live, and again, I can't emphasize enough, testing this yourself and asking somebody else to test it as well before you go live. And no matter how many of these you build, please test. I make mistakes all the time, and when I don't test, it burns me every time. So test, 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 test. Hover over here. We need to go to reports and functions because that's how you clear your test registrations. Okay. It's also, by the way, where you can look at a variety of reports. When you hover over here, you could look at a report for the registrant list. You could look at the summary report. They're great reports and you should examine those. And we do have more advanced training on those reports, but those are two that you could use right away. Okay. Now, I'm going to clear test registrations. Am I sure? Yep. Look, one registration has been removed. Okay. I would also want to clear any incomplete registrations. Same way. I don't have those because I didn't do it. I'm going to go back to the pencil. Now that I've cleared my test registrations, I've checked this more than once. I'm going to come down here and click live and then hit save and stay. Okay, so my registration is now live. And if I click that button, it no longer says you are currently testing, which it did before. Okay, so we are live. And you do want to check that, by the way. After you go live, after you hit save and stay, do click the URL. Make sure that it doesn't say you are testing, and then you know you're safe. Don't be like Laura when she thought she had hit the save and stay button, and then she got a nasty call from the provost office saying, "Why are all my people saying they're in test?" Don't be like Laura. Fortunately, she did that a long time ago. So, you know, I teach you so you do better. All right. So we're back to our page. We've done all the things. We've set up the page. We've tested. We've gone live. Do I have any questions? While I'm waiting, go ahead and put up our support options that you can see how to get a hold of us should you find a question later. Okay. Here are your support options. You can contact support here at ASU, either the Slack channel, which has users who are great at answering questions. They've been with us since the start. You can go to that support website that I showed you, the stova.asu.edu. You could email us at stova@asu.edu. We have a YouTube channel that has former training sessions on there, and or you could go to future webinars. Now, this is the last class for this semester, but we are getting ready to post what we'll be doing this summer. And you can always go back and look at the previous training sessions that we've held. We also have office hours, including an office hour today, which starts at 1:30. And we post the office hours times in the Slack channel, so keep an eye out for that. You can bring us all your questions. It's an open session, and we all learn together. Steve and I are not always here. So if you reach out between 8 and 5, you're sure to get one of us at some point. But if you need something after hours or during the weekend, you're going to want to contact Stova support. And to contact them, you can either go through email, the support at stova.io, the support website, or on-demand videos. I showed you how to get into through the navigation panel with the hamburger. That's how you get to the support site. They're super helpful. They are 24/7, and they're really great. Okay. They sometimes can't answer questions as well about ASU specific questions, but general STOVA functionality, they're amazing about. Okay. And Steve and I do monitor those help tickets. So if they do get themselves in a jam about an ASU specific situation, we jump in and let them know, and let you know what the answer is. All right, folks. Not seeing any questions in Slack. I'm going to say thank you for coming today and enjoy the rest of your day.